Hey everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Twitter, on a bunch of places. If you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm really excited tonight to be sharing. My plan tonight is to talk about all of my kindergarten through fifth grade lessons for the most part for this week, and then also to share some books that you might consider using for Indigenous Peoples Day, which is today, or just any time through the year if you want to have some cool books that feature Indigenous characters or are written by Indigenous authors. And then also I'm going to be sharing specifically about first grade and sort of how I run through that lesson and all of the details that go into that. So that's the plan. A couple of quick things. So if I mention books or props or downloads or whatever, because I'm going to mention a couple tonight. If you want to get those, there's a whole page on my blog dedicated to those things. If you go to makemomentsmatter.org and click the video tab, there's a drop down. You hit the 2020, 2021, no, what year is this? 2021, 2022 Musical Mondays recap. You can get all those. Or if you just, whatever you're watching or listening on, just scroll down to the bottom of the caption. There's a direct link to get there. And that's the links page. One more thing, if you're on Facebook and you want to join in the discussion after this video is over, you want to keep talking, I have a Facebook group. It's called Every Moment Matters, a music education community. You can ask questions, you can get ideas. There have been some really fun conversations on there the last couple days. So join us. It'd be great to have you, and we'll keep talking about music ed and keep talking about things that are important to us. So the plan tonight is to do, I'm just going to quickly talk about some of my favorite books that I might use for Indigenous Peoples Day today, or really honestly any time of year, because I love using these books sort of throughout the year. And I'll just say that well, I'm going to run through that and then get to my lessons. But I'll say that I've noticed in my classroom library there was a hole, and I had a lot of books about all different subjects and all different areas, and I realized that I didn't have a lot of books featuring Asian characters, Asian protagonists, or written by Asian authors, and also not a lot of books that were that featured Indigenous peoples or were written by Indigenous people, and I wanted to add to that. So I started looking a year or two ago, and the more you look, the more you find. So there's a whole page on my Amazon page that has just a bunch of books that are really great that I would encourage you to check out. But also, if you have suggestions of books that I don't have on that list or I don't mention, please let me know. I would love to check them out and add more and find more. So I know last year I talked about this, and a bunch of people were like, have you heard of this one, or have you heard of this one? No, I hadn't. So I keep adding, and I hope that maybe I give you some new ideas tonight, but I hope you'll message me back or send me an email or something and give me some of your favorite titles. Okay, in no particular order, here's some really cool books. Okay, I'm going to start with the smallest one, and by that I just mean that it is a board book. It is small. It's called We Sang You Home. This is by Richard Van Camp, illustrations by Julie Flett. It's this beautiful book. I think it's sort of made for toddlers, kids, and from the perspective of parents, but I'll just share a couple pages. We sang you from a wish, we sang you from a prayer, we sang you home, and you sang back. We give you kisses to help you grow, and songs to let you know that you are loved. As we give you roots, you give us wings, and through you we are born again. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole book, but it's just all amazing text like that. And so much music is incorporated into the book, talking about we sang you home, thank you for singing back. That's how the book ends. So beautiful. But it has all these great references to music and could be easily brought into your classroom. That's We Sang You Home by Richard Van Camp. And all these books are on they're linked on my Amazon page. Not that you have to buy them from Amazon, you don't. But if you go to that Amazon page, you'll see all of them together. I always sort of think of Amazon as like a Pinterest for stuff. And the nice thing is that if you go to Amazon and you pull up this listing, it'll have the author, it'll have the ISBN, it'll have identifying information. So if you want to go get it from your library or a used bookstore, totally can. Okay, I've got this book called Simone and the Dance Contest. This is by Gail Matthews, illustrated by Allie Hinch. Love this one. I shared about this one last year on the Musical Mondays, but it's about a little boy who wants to join this dance contest. And it starts out with them in like an ice rink, like a hockey rink. And then they see this poster for, it says, Christmas Jigging Dance Contest, December 14th, for the community dance contest. And so anyway, so Simone, like, he really wants to be a part of this. He's not sure how. He needs to be taught, so he goes and asks friends. He ends up, like, doing the jigging with his friend Dana. They win the dance contest. I mean, it's just this really cool thing, but it's all about community and all about dancing. And there's some really cool videos. I know I pulled up one last year. I'll try and add it on the links page that you can find. I think it's through Canadian Broadcasting. They did like a feature on jigging, like this specific kind of dancing that you would find. And it's sort of like a cross between like Irish folk dance and like how the indigenous people put their spin on it, and it's this really cool form, and you should check it out. If I remember, I'll put that on the links page, or just send me a message and I'll remember to do that. But it would fit in so well if you read this book and then showed that video. That'd be super cool to do. But it's just a really cool book on its own, even if you just read it as a standalone book. Simone and the Dance Contest by Gail Matthews. I found this one from a recommendation from someone who saw me talking about these books last year and was like, you should check this one out. It's called Caribou Song by Atiko Nikamon. I'm not sure if I'm saying that is actually right. It's spelled Atihko, last name Nikamon. And this is really cool because the illustrations are just beautiful. Like, they are beautiful. Oh, I'm so sorry. I read that absolutely wrong. Caribou Song, it's written by Thompson Highway, illustrations by John Rombo, and then Atiko Nikamon is the Cree, how you say it in Cree. And I should have known that because the entire book has the words in English and then in Cree on every page. And I was going to make sure I mentioned that, but I didn't even think it was on the title page. My bad, sorry. So anyway, so it's these beautiful, fun illustrations that would be so cool to partner like with your art teacher. Like, would you be interested in making something like this? But it's about these two boys, Joe and Cody. And the first page is, Joe and Cody lived with their mama, their papa, and Cody's black dog, Utsi. They lived too far north for most trees. Most of the year, the lakes and islands and rivers and hills were covered in snow. All year long, they followed the caribou with a sled pulled by 8 huskies. Mush, Papa would yell as the dogs would run straight forward. Cha, he would shout, and they would turn right. And then he yelled, you, and they turned left. So it's this super cool story that tells their life, that talks about how they follow the caribou, why they follow the caribou. And then it's like he and his brother get so caught up just in the night and spending time together, they're out, and then out of nowhere come all the caribou, and they're sort of caught up in it. And it says like they should be frightened, but they like open themselves to feel the spirit of the herd. And anyways, this just gorgeous illustrations and really cool story. And like I said, every page has the English and then the Cree. So if you wanted to attempt to read some of this, or if you know Cree, it would be super cool to add on. This is called Caribou Song. This is by Thompson Highway. Okay. I'm going to talk about that one later, so I'm not going to talk about it now. This book, Tall Chief, America's Prima Ballerina, about Maria Tall Chief, about her life. This is a super cool version by Rosemary Wells. There are a couple other books about her. This is like my favorite one. It has these really fun illustrations. I will just say it is long and it is wordy. So it's a little bit tricky if you're going to try and use this with younger grades, because the pictures aren't like as eye-popping as like maybe would work, like younger kids, K1 and 2, they like those bright and like vibrant illustrations. This is not that. And it is more of a longer story. So maybe this would be better to like read a couple pages every day to your older grades. Maybe you'd want to incorporate it just a little bit at a time with younger grades. It just sort of depends on how you want to do it. But it's a really cool story that basically tells her life and tells how she became a ballerina. And that's the life of Maria Tall Chief, America's first Native American prima ballerina. And that's by Rosemary Wells. This is another one. This is one I heard on an NPR, like just a radio just a segment, and I was like randomly driving home, and I had to like stop and write down the information, and I bought it right away. And this is called "I Sang You Down from the Stars" by Tasha Spillett Summer. And this one also has the most beautiful illustrations. It's very new, so I doubt you're going to find it in the used bookstores, but you could look. But anyway, super, super cool. Let me read just a couple pages. I loved you before I met you, before I held you in my arms. I sang you down from the stars. As I searched for your eyes in the sky, I saw a shooting star. I followed it to a fluffy white eagle plume. I held on to it, the first gift in a bundle that will be yours. Summer was fading into fall on the day I found out that you had chosen to make my body your first home. Together we went to gather cedar and sage, medicines that will keep our spirits strong through the winter. When you're old enough, I'll teach you how to use them. Into your bundle they will go. So the whole book is like talking about how it's like making this bundle for the unborn child and getting and preparing and all the things that that you do to prepare yourself spiritually, mentally, physically for having a new child. And then it's, like I said, just these beautiful, beautiful illustrations. I love the idea of like singing someone down and like and that came up in the other book too, but like making that connection. And anyway, just amazing illustrations, fun book, great story, super easy to include. There's so many different fun avenues you could jump from that to another book. And then I've got 3 more recommendations before I jump ahead. Okay, this one was recommended to me by a couple friends who live in Canada. This was actually given to me by some of my friends in Saskatchewan when I went up and did a workshop there, and they were like, "Ooh, you should check out this book." This is called Fiddle Dancer. This is by Ann Patton and Wilfred Burton. I think this is on the Amazon page, but it's like a very small publishing company, so you might have trouble finding it through the big publishers, but I'm sure you could get it through local bookstores and local publishers. Because like it's published in Saskatoon, so it might be a little bit harder, but it's called Fiddle Dancer. Let me just read a couple pages, or just a little bit of it. It was way past bedtime on New Year's Eve, but Nolan's shoes were still tapping. The lively fiddle music gave him energy. He hopped from side to side, copying the other dancers. Nolan glanced up, and Mushoom winked from across the dance circle. Nolan tried even harder to get the step right. Then the tempo went faster. Mushoom moved to the middle to show off his fancy steps. The other dancers hooted and clapped. Mushoom's feet flashed high, then snapped the floor, the fringes of his sash bouncing to the beat. When the music slowed, Mushoom was gasping for breath. "I'm too old for this," he puffed. Mushoom's friend yelled, "Hey, old Baptiste, better teach your grandson to take your place." Nolan felt his face turning red. He could never dance like Mushoom. When the fiddlers stopped between tunes, Nolan squeezed his hand. "I'm tired now." Mushoom nodded. "Go sleep on my parka." He ruffled Nolan's hair. "Soon you'll know the fancy steps, my boy." No chance, thought Nolan. As he wrapped himself in Mushoom's coat, he snuggled under a bench. So obviously it goes on. It talks about the dancing. It's honestly a pretty long book. So it's like 40 some pages, but it's a super, super cool book. It has lots of really fun illustrations. It's all about like learning the dance and learning how to do those traditional dance moves, and he learns from his grandfather. So it's a super cool thing, and it includes a CD at the back. So like there's a lot of cool things to this book. The CD in the back includes the English narration, also the Michief narration, and also the Red River Jig, Whiskey Before Breakfast, and Big John McNeil songs performed by John Arcand. So it's a book plus a CD, so lots of fun that you can incorporate real easy. And another one, this was recommended by a bunch of people, called Jingle Dancer. I got this one online through a direct bookseller. I think you can get it on Amazon now, but I don't think I could at the time. And this one is a delight too. Let me pull this out. This is like another children connecting with elders, children connecting with their community. Tink, 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 sang cone-shaped jingles sewn to Grandma Wolf's dress. Every grandma bounce step brought clattering tinks as light blurred silver against jingles of tin. Jenny daydreamed to the kitchen table, tasting honey on fry bread, her heart beating to the brum, 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 brum of the powwow drum. As Moon kissed Sun goodnight, Jenna shifted her head on Grandma Wolf's shoulders. I want to jingle dance too. Next powwow you could dance, girls, Grandma Wolf answered, but we don't have enough time to mail order tins for rolling jingles. Again and again, Jenna watched a video of Grandma Wolf's jingle dancing. When Grandma Bounce stepped on TV, Jenna Bounce stepped on family room carpet. But Jenna's dress would not be able to sing. It needed 4 rows of jingles. As sun fetched morning, Jenna danced east to Great Aunt Sis's porch. Jenna's bounce steps crunched autumn leaves, but her steps didn't jingle. So anyway, it's this cool story, and she goes from person to person in her family and says, I want to do this jingle dance, but I don't have any jingles. We'd have to mail off for them, and I don't have them. And so each one gave her, each person in her life gives her some jingles to make a row. And she said, because she says, like, may I borrow enough jingles to make a row, not wanting to take so many that Mrs. Scott's dress would lose its voice. You may, Mrs. Scott answered, tossing flour with her apron. At powwow, I'll be busy selling fry bread and Indian tacos. Will you dance for me? And I love that part, that like each one is like, yes, you may borrow my jingles. Will you dance for me? Will you take that and do this in my name? Anyway. Super, super beautiful story, and the illustrations are just so much fun, but you could absolutely include this with, there are so many like fun instructional videos online or informational videos about powwow or about dancing, or just go and find, there are some really great people out there who are putting out things to try and help make connections and give out information about like powwows and jingle dancing, and you can find lots of great things out there. So this is another super cool book, and that's Jingle Dancer by Cynthia Leitich-Smith. And then the last one I'm going to talk about because it shows up in my lessons, but a couple books that you might also consider. There's this one called When We Dance. This is by Violet Duncan. I have several books by her, and one of them is going to show up in my lessons, but this one is called When We Dance. There's another one called I Am Native. Both of these are really good books. I haven't used We Will Dance as much in my lessons. I use I Am Native a lot, and I love this one because it's this like great juxtaposition. I think we as teachers don't always do a good job when talking about Native or indigenous peoples and giving kids a good understanding about who these people are and what their lives are like now. Because I feel like a lot of times, especially in elementary, we'll talk about, in history, Native Americans would live in teepees or travel or were nomadic or whatever, and we're great at giving like a historical viewpoint, but not so much like, and today, this is what their tradition's like, and this is what they would wear, or this is blah, blah, blah. And so this is a cool book to do that. Violet Duncan does a great job of giving these beautiful illustrations and very kid-friendly language. So this side says, I am Native. I am a dancer. I dance the jingle dress dance. My mom braids my hair in 2 braids. I dance to bring healing and happiness to the powwow with my family. It says, in Native cultures, boys grow their hair long. It's a sign of a warrior. And on this side it says, I am Native. I am a dancer. I dance in ballet class. My mom wraps my hair in a tight bun. In my dance class, I practice different ballet positions in my tutu. So like a juxtaposition of like traditional and more current or more contemporary. This one talks about athlete, like as a hoop dancing and how they have that hoop dancing tradition, and then also playing basketball, and then making traditional foods, making bannock, and preparing things traditionally, and then also baking like cupcakes and baking other things. So it's just super fun thing that helps kids see that like when we talk about, I think especially in the United States, when we talk about Native Americans or when we talk about indigenous peoples in general, a lot of times we give this history, but also they're a living and breathing culture even now, and here's some ways that you can make connections and you can feel connected, even if you don't see or hear those communities every day in your lifetime. So it's just this super cool book. I love Violet Duncan's books. I have like 4 of them. 3, I have 3 of them. I think I have 3 of them. When I went to buy her books, I think she had 3, and so I bought all of them. Anyway, they're super great. Another one's going to show up in my lessons a little bit later. All these books, you can find them. I think they're all linked on my Amazon page if you want to go there, and that's on the links page. You can find a link to that Amazon listing. But like I said, you don't have to buy from Amazon, but on Amazon, if you go to the listing and you click on the link, it'll give you the author name, the ISBN, it'll give you all the identifying information, it'll give you the publisher. And so I like Amazon for that purpose. I think of Amazon as like a Pinterest for like stuff. Anyway, sorry Instagram, I know the book is backward. It's because I'm taking this video on my phone. Sorry, there's just not a way to change that, I don't think. But I'll see if there's a way to mirror in the future. Okay, let's talk about lessons. I'm going to go through and I'm going to share as much as I can, and then I'm going to try and do more of a focus on first grade. So I'm going to sort of zoom through some of these things. Kindergarten. One quick reminder, I see students twice a week for 30 minutes each. So when you hear me say like first lesson, second lesson, that's like the first lesson of the week is 30 minutes and the second is 30 minutes. And I know that not everyone has those same parameters, but it lets you sort of know like what I'm working with and why I'm planning things in that way, and you can change or adapt or whatever as you see fit, if you want to take my ideas at all. Okay, so they come in, we do our circle song, which I know I share every week, but just in case you're new, it goes like this. Come and make a circle, circle, circle. Come and make a circle all around. Take hands together, everyone together. Once we've made a circle, then we'll all sit down. It's to the tune of Button You Must Wander. I learned that from my friend Andrew Ellingson, but I love it and it works really well. Then I tell my kindergartners to say, it's October, and there's this holiday coming up called Halloween, and some people really like to dress up or to have candy or put up decorations, or some people like to tell really spooky, scary stories. And I have a very scary song to teach you today. And then I lead them I don't sing it, but I gotta lead them through the story of Itsy Bitsy Spider. There was a spider, and the spider, spiders, they get their food from, food that flies around. They catch it in a web and blah, blah, blah. And I go through this whole thing, but where are you going to put that web? Up high, down low, in a box? Probably up high so you can catch the flying things. Well, this spider wanted to get up to the top of the house, and it found the spider highway. It was this long tube on the side of the house. It was perfect to get up to the top of the house. And then as it was going up the spider highway, this tube, water started. I basically just retell Itsy Bitsy Spider and just retell the whole thing. I do that because I want, water spout. I don't feel like that's a word that kids really understand unless you put it in context and, maybe show them a picture of a gutter or show them a picture of, a downspout. I always felt like that was such a weird thing that, we would just sing the song and, kids would sing it, but, didn't know what it meant. And so I always, talk about why is a spider going up high and why is it crawling up the pipe and blah, blah, blah. And so then at the end of the song, we sing the song a couple times, and kids are like, why did we sing this? This isn't scary. And I was like, well, maybe it's not scary for you, but who would this song be scary for? And then we talk about how if you were a spider, this might be scary because, you're halfway up and the water starts rushing down. Anyway, I do this for a couple reasons. One, because I want kids to get the vocabulary, so I tell the story in that way. Itsy bitsy means small, and the water spout, and all of that. But then also I want to talk about perspective and this falls in with some of the other songs I've taught this year of you don't need to be overwhelmed, you don't need to lose control of your emotions. It's always good to understand perspective and things. So when we do Apple Tree and a kid gets a beanbag dropped on their head because it's part of the song, the song is I won't cry, I won't shout. Well, is this going to ruin your day? No. And Itsy Bitsy Spider too, it's we talk about, for the spider, this might be a scary song. And so for some, if we're doing songs in class, are they ever going to be so scary that you need to be frightened or anything? No, we're probably learning songs they're so spooky, but actually they're just sort of fun. It's giving kids this perspective of we might sing a song with a scary character or a scary setting or whatever, but you don't need to be scared because you're safe here in the music room and we're having fun, and you're smart that this is just a song or whatever. So I just like to throw that into it helps build that feeling of ownership in the room and community and perspective on the setting, if that makes any sense. I know it's sort of silly to say, but I think kindergartners can handle that. So, so we do that. Then I teach this song called, or I read this book. This is a book by Violet Duncan. I was just talking about Violet Duncan. And this is one called Let's Hoop Dance. And this is about a little boy, Naichi, and his dad, and how his dad teaches him this traditional dance called hoop dancing. And so basically it's like these, they're sort of like hula hoops, honestly, if you look at them. But they do these really cool like patterns and shapes, and I love it because like it goes through and it tells, like, they explain the whole process. They talk about, you know, what they do and how they do it and how they practice. And I really love that, like, as they're doing it, they talk about like the shapes that they could make and what those things symbolize and balance. And they make like a sphere, and they make like three hooked together that you can sort of imagine as like a caterpillar. And like, it's just really this cool idea of, oh, like, I love this one too, like making the eagle's wings with your hoops. So I really love it for a couple reasons. One, I love that it's based in a traditional Native American dance, in that tradition, and I love that it gives their perspective. I think that's so cool. It talks about the whole process. That's amazing. It's also really good for the music room because it gets kids to start to think like, well, yeah, these are just 4 hula hoops, but I can imagine that they are wings. Okay, yeah, those are just some hula hoops, but I can imagine that does sort of look like a rattlesnake, or I can see whatever. So this is like a cool book to like get kids to start thinking with their imagination, like filling in those gaps of like, okay, well, yeah, you're just holding a beanbag, but we're going to pretend it's an apple or whatever. And so like this is just a cool way to do that in the context of an actual Native American dance tradition. And it's just so perfectly illustrated. Like, this is actually Violet Duncan's husband and son, so like it's super cool. You see that, and on the back it shows both Naichi and his dad in their traditional regalia, what they would wear if they're going to be doing this traditional dance for like a performance or a ceremony. And so it's super cool to see that. You can also, well, and this comes up in my second lesson of the week, but like we read the book in first lesson of the week. In the second lesson of the week, there's a video of Tony Duncan, who's featured here in the book. He's like an international hoop dance champion. So like I have video of him actually dancing and like doing some of the shapes that they show in the book. So you can find those. They're out there, and they're pretty easy to track down and find. And at the end of the day, if we have time left, we start in on steady beat. We talk about what it is. I give lots of examples, and then like kids do them. And then at the end, I give them a quiz. Like, I show them some things, and they have to say, is it a steady beat, thumbs up? Is it not a steady beat, thumbs down? And so it's just like sort of a 5-minute thing where like we go through steady beat, we do some steady beats, we put them in our hands and pat our knees, we clap our hands, we put them in our feet and stand up and walk. And you know, it's just some examples of that, and then they get to see if I do a steady beat or not. Super easy on that first day. The second time they come in, we come and make a circle. We do the Itsy Bitsy Spider again. In the past, I've also found there's a fun video. There are a couple fun videos, animated videos of Itsy Bitsy Spider with like slight variations and stuff. But I also, usually on the second day, I'll do like the Itsy Bitsy Spider. We sing through it, and I go, what if the spider wasn't so itsy bitsy? What if it was like a medium-sized spider? And we say, the medium spider, you know, and what if it's the big ginormous spider? The big ginormous spider. But whatever we do, we're like changing the way we sing a little bit to adapt to those new words. What if we say like the super caffeinated spider? You know, we'd have to speed up our song or whatever. So it's just like changing the song a little bit just for fun. And then we do like one of my favorite all-time October songs, which is 5 Little Pumpkins Sitting on a Gate. And a couple years ago, I found this like garden edging, which you can get really cheap at like Dollar Tree or, you know, Walmart or whatever. And someone was going to throw it out. I stole it from the curb, and it's perfectly fine. It's not broken. It's not dirty. Anyway, I washed it off. But I also have had these foam pumpkin cutouts. So when we learn the song, I take these 5 pumpkins and actually like put them on the fence, and we learn the poem. And if you don't know the poem, it goes, 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate. The first one said, oh my, it's getting late. The second one said, there are witches in the air. The third one said, but we don't care. The fourth one said, let's run and run and run. The fifth one said, I'm ready for some fun. Went the wind and out went the lights and 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight. So we like learn the poem. There are like some finger play actions where your hands or fingers get to do the actions of the song or poem. Super easy, super fun. It's been like a classic in my classroom for years. But I actually pull out like the fence piece here, and we talk about a gate and we talk about what each pumpkin is thinking or seeing or whatever. And again, I don't ever teach a song or a poem without going into what the vocabulary means. I want kids to understand what they're singing and doing. Like, I don't just teach a nursery rhyme and not explain things. Nursery rhymes have weird words in them that kids don't understand. So I always go through and talk about that. And in this lesson, we just learn the poem, learn the finger play. In the next lesson, we will act it out as a class. Hilarious. But that'll be next week. Okay. First grade, I'm going to skip because I'm coming back to them. Second grade, I'm going to skip parts of it because some of the stuff that I'm actually teaching is stuff that I got from my ORF levels or I got from a workshop that's not mine to share, so I'm not going to share that. But what I will tell you in second grade is that we come in, the first lesson of the week, we do Little Sally Walker, which I have taught, 4 weeks ago, but we just come back and redo it, rehash it, and just sing through. It's just so it's familiar, it's easy, it's a great way to start the class singing and super simple. The last couple lessons, we do our little opening song and then we visit the Opera House. So the Sydney Opera House has this series of videos called Who's in the Lift, and in each video they have this huge industrial size elevator where the doors will open and inside will be an opera singer, or the doors will open and inside will be a piano tuner or a ballet dancer or a lighting designer. And then they have basically first graders who go in and then ask questions. So what's your job? What do you do? What does that mean? They ask all these super fun questions. My second graders absolutely go nuts for it. So far we've met the opera singer, the piano tuner. This week we meet the lighting designer and I think the percussionist, and those are 2 heavy hitter favorites. So the videos are 4 or 5 minutes. They're really simple and easy. They're free on YouTube. Just check out the Sydney Opera House channel. Why am I including them? Well, first of all, it's just super cool exposure, but also my school is we have a big focus on college and career and connecting to real world jobs and examples. So this is one way that 4 minutes, I can let kids see all these different jobs that are connected to music or related to music or whatever. And they're so much fun. And the kids they just watched the one with the opera singer and they were hooked. They're show me every other one we have. Anyway, so every week there's one. Then we do a play on Little Miss Muffet, which I learned at my ORF level, so I'm not going to share that because it's not my lesson to share. But then we go back to Note Neighborhood. In a previous week, we learned about the half note at Note Neighborhood. And in my Note Neighborhood resources, I always include one file that's the introduction of the concept and then one that's just practicing. So they met the half note. On one day, they explain it to 2 beats and how does she talk, and she does a sassy wave. She goes ta and whatever, and she gets 2 beats ta, and she's all sassy and whatever. And anyway, they love meeting her. They think she's funny. And then in the second lesson, they go back and talk to her, and then it's basically just a way for me to make them read rhythms, but there's a story to it. Oh, we're going over for a pool party at Sassy Half Note's house. And we're reading rhythms in the pool. I mean, it's just reading rhythms that include half notes. But, the kids like it. And because the sassy half note is, the main character, she keeps saying things that are silly and they like it. So, that's what we do in the second half of the lesson. The next lesson for the week, we do the Opera House again. We do an opening song. And then, again, there's another lesson from an ORF workshop. You should go to ORF workshops. You should go to ORF teacher training in the summer. It's worth it. Look at all the things that are in my lessons. It's worth doing. And then so in the last 10 minutes of that class, we go back and we take out whiteboards and we draw half notes and we put them in patterns, 4-beat patterns, or maybe do 4 beats and a bar line and then 4 more on the other side. And we just do, we do lots of stuff that includes half notes. Maybe I'll give them a pattern ta, ta dee ta, and I have them write it, or maybe I'll put up on the board and just have them copy, or maybe I'll have them come up with their own. I try and do a little bit of all of that so that they like see the half note from all different perspectives. Like they're copying, or they're composing themselves, or they're arranging, or within guidelines, or filling in a blank, or whatever. Lots of ways to try out the half note and to incorporate it with whiteboards. And it's super, super easy to do if the kids are used to pulling out whiteboards and just doing that real quick. And it's only like maybe 10 minutes of the lesson. Simple. My third graders, the first part of the lesson we do Sansa Chroma. So Sansa Chroma, I know I shared last week. We sort of talked about it. And Sansa Chroma, I have a teacher kit that goes along with it that gives, so like my favorite folk song teacher kits, I always like trying to use them when I teach the song because it gives like a visual about where the song is from and explains vocabulary. And especially for this song I think gets misunderstood a lot, like what the eagle is flying in and doing. So it gives them some more context and explanation, gives them lots of visuals. That's on the links page if you're interested. But we learned Sansa Chroma in a previous lesson, so we basically just start singing it. And then what I do with my kids is I have an egg, or a bunch of egg shakers, at least one for each kid in the class, and we do little patterns with them that just short repeating patterns. So sort of basically an ostinato, where we tap like knee, knee, shake, knee, knee, shake, or maybe we do knee, knee, tap, tap, knee, knee, tap, tap, shoulder taps, or whatever. Just something that like we can repeat, and each kid gets their own shaker, and it's super fun to do. In previous years, we did a passing game where like you would pass the egg to the person next to you. In COVID, it's, whether you want to do that or not, it depends on you and your school and level of comfort. But it's something sort of easy to put in. That takes up only just part of the lesson because we already learned the song, so it's not like we're like spending all this time trying to figure out how the song goes. And so then we just take that and adding the patterns. Kids come up with patterns. So like I'll show them 3 or 4. What if we went like shoulder, shoulder, shake, shoulder, shoulder, shake? Can anyone else think of a pattern we could do as a class? And they'll think like pat the floor, pat your shoulder, floor, floor, shoulder, whatever. And whatever kids come up with, we try it. And so it only takes a little bit of the lesson because it's not like we're like teaching the song and doing this. Like we already have the framework of the song. We're just adding on the coming up with patterns sort of thing. And the second half of the lesson, we grab whiteboards and kids do the same sort of thing that happened with second grade, only instead of just using half notes, we're using quarter notes, eighth notes, half rest, which is new, and quarter rest. And again, it's like fitting in and seeing where things go and making sure everything adds up and all of that. Make sure that goes together. The second lesson of the week, we do Little Liza Jane. It's the first time learning that. So again, we pull out that favorite folk song kit and to explain what a streetcar is and to explain the name Liza and Eliza and whatever. And it just gives some of that history and context. I also pull out a video from Kansas City, which is where I'm from. Kansas City got a streetcar system several years ago and nobody would use it because they didn't know how it worked. So they put out these like informational videos that show a streetcar like coming up and going on the street, and then like from inside the streetcar, like you're viewing the streetcar and it takes you through the loop. And anyway, kids like it because they maybe recognize our downtown, probably not. But they recognize the word Kansas City. But then also they get to like see the streetcar and see what it really is in like a modern version of it. So it's fun for them to get to see that and be a part of that. So because the streetcar plays so much in the song, I make sure that we watch that video. And then kids get to meet King Whole Note. So we go to the note neighborhood, and it's like an introduction to King Whole Note. Who is he? What does he do? Again, obviously, big personality. King Whole Note, he's the king of the neighborhood, blah, 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 and how to take a space. Anyway, hilarious. But like it's like the introduction lesson, PowerPoint, and we go through that. And that takes up the whole time. Fourth grade, we're preparing for a program. It's very boring. Not really. The program is not boring, but it would be boring for me to talk about it. We're running through, usually for lessons like this, at the beginning of a lesson, I always try and like run through a song we already know, just to like refresh it in our memory, but also so they feel successful starting the lesson. We run through, we do a new song. In this lesson, I did auditions for speaking parts, and when I do that, it's not really auditions. I just have kids stand up and like speak some of the lines. I always have them groups of 4 or 5 stand up and speak through the lines so that they don't feel like on their own, alone in front of the class. I'm springing it on them or whatever. It's they're up there standing with friends, speaking through parts. I always make sure I say the parts 3 or 4 times before I ever like say like, okay, now it's kids' turn to do it. And then I go to their homeroom teachers and I say, here's the list of kids who auditioned, who said they're interested in a speaking part. Can you help me weed out kids who like don't do homework or huge behavior problems, or can you help me know kids that like this would be a cool ego boost or like a confidence boost so that they, you know, like giving them a part's really going to help them. You know, like, what do you think? I always talk to the homeroom teachers for 2 reasons. One, the homeroom teachers actually do help me figure out who are the kids who need that help and who it would be really good for. But also it makes the homeroom teachers feel looped in on the program. It makes them feel like they're you know, a vital part of the process. And I really feel like they are. So like this is just really a fun thing to go and do that. Yeah, both these lessons are like run through, try, learn new stuff. It's boring. So my fourth grade is working on a Veterans Day program. So the songs we're doing in these couple weeks is there's a song called Hats Off to America, which is an octavo. There's a song called Lights of Freedom. That's from Music K8. We're also doing America the Beautiful and a couple other ones I've already talked about. So on Instagram, Whole Note Neighborhood is a program. Note Neighborhood is a series of resources I created. It's on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can find it on the links page. There's actually, if you want to try it out and see like what it's like, the file for quarter note and eighth notes is free, so you can just download it and see if you like it and try it out and see. But King Whole Note is like the character that goes along with whole notes. The sassy half note's the one for half notes, and there's Ta and his friend Dion, and I mean, there are a couple different versions, but you can check that out if you're interested, or just send me a message. I can send you that link. 5th grade's also boring. We're preparing for our 5th grade program, so it's, you know, run through the song, learn a new song. Anyway, I'm going to spend my time talking about 1st grade because 5th grade, I talked about last week about concert programs, so I'm not going to talk about that so much today. Okay, so 1st grade, they come in, we do come and make a circle, and then in the previous lesson, we learned the first part to the song, the pumpkin on the vine. The pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine. I picked the one that weighed a ton. That's the one that's mine. In that lesson, we sang the song. We learned that part. We acted out what it'd be like to walk with huge pumpkins in our arms. I showed them a video. It's like a 4-minute clip. It's on YouTube. Maybe not even that long. More like 2.5 minutes. And it's from Charlie Brown, the Halloween Charlie Brown. I don't know what one. Big Pumpkin Charlie Brown. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, but yeah, it's like the segment where like Linus and Lucy go to the pumpkin patch and pick out a pumpkin. So it is like absolutely perfect to illustrate sort of like walking around with a huge pumpkin, and kids love it. So that goes in. That's when we learn the song. Okay, and so we learned the song, and then today in this lesson we learned the first part, and I put up on the board, you know, the first part. If we're going to give that like a something to help us remember it, I'm going to put this up. And this is just a foam pumpkin shape, which I just took a Sharpie and wrote a letter A and then put a magnet on the back. I actually decided to get fancy, and so I actually like got nice clip art and stuff. They didn't print out very well on this printer. I need to change the ink, but like I printed it out on clip art with letters for form letters, and I put these on the links page. If you want these, you can just download them and print them off. They're free. I just linked them on the links page. But I have A, B, and C. But anyway, so like a pumpkin with a letter on it, right? I just put on the board. You learned part A. Let me teach you the new part. It's not the same as A. If it were the same exact thing, we'd have to have A and A, but it's not. It's different. So we're going to call it B. So the part A goes, the pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine. I picked the one that weighed a ton. That's the one that's mine. And B is a silly thing that I made up years ago. It went, pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin on the vine. Pumpkin, pumpkin, that's the one that's mine. So what I have kids do is that like on the A section, they get to walk around carrying a huge pumpkin. You're at the pumpkin patch, carry it back to your car, whatever is, you know, that's the instruction on the part A as they sing. The pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine. And when we sing part B, You don't move, you stay right in your own place, and you go pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin on the vine, pumpkin, pumpkin, that's the one that's mine. So part A is locomotor, part B is non-locomotor. So I just try and do that so there's a very clear contrast between the sections. I mean, they sound very, very different, but I think that you can see it visually as well. And so what I do is I say, if I really wanted, I have up on the board A and B, stuck to the board. And I was like, but if I love the song so much, but I didn't feel like it was long enough, I could do this. I could add another part A, and we could go back and sing the first part. Why don't we try that? So we try an ABA form, and I go, what if I really like it, but I don't like the part A as much as part B? Could I do BAB? And start with pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin on the vine, and then do the pumpkin on the vine, the pumpkin on the vine, and then do pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin on the vine. Yeah, I could if I wanted. What if I really liked it, but I wanted to do B, B, A, or A, B, B? Could I do that? Sure. What if I just really like part A? Can I just do A, A? I could if I want. And so I have 4, 2 A's and 2 B's. You could do more or less. But the thing that I let kids do is I have my random kid chooser, and I press my random kid chooser, and I let the iPad sort of just pull a name. It's like a stick pull thing. Then that kid gets to come up and arrange however they want. They could do one part, 2, 3, 4. They can use all 4 pumpkins. They can do just 1 or 2, whatever they want. And they can arrange it in whatever order they want, and whatever they choose, we'll sing it. And so we sing and move, right, to whatever they choose. It's just those 2 sections, but it gets them really comfortable with arranging, rearranging, moving, adapting, reading the map, and it's so much fun for them because the kid who gets to choose is like, oh, I'm going to give you a hard one. Like, no, you're not. There's only A and B, and there are only 4 options. But they get really into it, and so it's hilarious. Totally worth trying out. And like I said, I'm going to be fancy because I printed these out. I print them out at school. I'm getting them laminated. Ooh. And I just get, I have free magnets. These are actually, I don't know if you can't really see, but these are old magnets that a bank gave out with a calendar on it. You can't really see that. But I just got a whole stack at the end of 2018 or whatever. And I was like, hey, can I just have all the ones that you haven't given away? I had a friend who worked at a credit union. And they were like, yes. And so now I have these super huge flat magnets that I just hot glue or double-sided tape or whatever to the back of anything I want to stick on the board. But these are free download if you want them, and then you can just put the magnet on the back, and it makes it very easy. Okay, I saw someone on Instagram, Nancy, where can I find the Sansa Chroma song? Like I said, it's in that favorite folk song kit, or you can, if you just want the music, you could download it. But the song goes, Sansa Chroma nine wo acheche kokoma, Sansa Chroma nine wo acheche kokoma. Super easy, super quick. But we usually loop it. We usually do it at least twice if we're going to do that song. That was a 3rd grade jump back, but I just saw your comment, Nancy. Okay, so that sort of runs through the rest of our lesson for the day because kids come up. For however many we could do, usually about 4 or 5 kids can come up and arrange and rearrange and change the form of the song, and we just do that with these foam pumpkins. But we're gonna get real fancy with these ones very soon. But kids love that, and they're like, "Is everyone gonna get to go?" Probably not, but that's okay, right? Maybe you'll get to go next time or what, And so we go through this. When they come back for the second lesson of the week, we start with our circle song. We redo the pumpkin on the vine, and the app that I use to pull kids' names will remember who's already gone and won't choose them again. So it's the same process, but they know what's happening. I don't have to teach how it works. They know what's happening, and so they'll just come up and arrange and rearrange, and we get through maybe 4 or 5 more, and then I have a book to read to them. And it is so we don't get to everyone, but again, that's fine. And it's this book, The Little Old Lady Who Was Not Afraid of Anything. Probably many of you know it. Just in case, I will read just a few pages to you. It's called Idokio, Alicia. I think it's hard for me to read very small type. Which app am I talking about? There are a bunch of apps you can get to pull kids' names, but Idokio is a grading app for iPad, and it has all my students' names in it, and seating charts and faces and blah blah blah. It's a really cool grading app, but it also has a function that will randomly pull kid names. So if you just want it for the sake of pulling kid names, or like pulling like classroom numbers or whatever, you could do like a stick pick app. There are tons of those. Idoku, I think, is like $12 or $14 or something. And I use it for my grade book. I use it for grading. I use it for so many other things than just this one tiny part of the app, but that's a cool feature that I have. So, is the pull a name option. Anyway, moving on. The Little Old Lady Who Was Not Afraid of Anything by Linda Williams. And probably many of you know this one, but just in case. Once upon a time, there was a little old lady who was not afraid of anything. One windy afternoon, the little old lady left her cottage and went for a walk in the forest to collect herbs and spices, nuts and seeds. She walked so long and so far that it started to get dark. There was only a sliver of moon shining through the night. The little old lady started to walk home. Suddenly, she stopped. Right in the middle of the path were two big shoes, and the shoes went clomp, clomp. At this point, I'm like, wait a minute. Are the shoes moving on their own? How does that happen? How does that work? What's going on? Oh, it's very spooky. I don't know. It's maybe a ghost movement. I don't know. Get out of my way, you two big shoes. I'm not afraid of you, said the little old lady, and walked on down the path. But behind her, she heard two shoes go clomp, clomp. A little further on, the little old lady stumbled into a pair of pants just hanging there in the air. Somehow. That's not in the book, but I add that because if I just say like a pair, she stumbled into a pair of pants. What, was they laying on the ground? What? So, and the pants went wiggle, wiggle. Get out of my way, you pair of pants. I'm not afraid of you, said the little old lady, and she walked on. But behind her she could hear two shoes go clomp, clomp. One pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. Now, I've done this book, like, for many years. So, like, I know that that's what's on the next... I know that's the words. The words actually don't say that on this page. But, like, I know that, like, if I turn the page, the kids are going to be talking about the next thing they see, and they're not going to focus on what they want them to focus on, which is that the two shoes go clomp, clomp. The pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. I don't want them to be thinking about the shirt before I say... that happens. So I don't turn the even though those words clomp, clomp, wiggle, wiggle are here. I don't turn the page. I just say it because like I know this book already. Anyway, every time you turn the page, you see another thing. It keeps accumulating. You got shoes, pants, shirt, a hat, two gloves, and then a giant pumpkin head in the middle of the thing. And every time she's like, get out of my way, you weird item of clothing. I'm not afraid of you, until she gets to the pumpkin. And the pumpkin goes, boo, boo. And I turn the page and say, get out of my way. Ran. She could hear two shoes. One pair. So like I play up that like, she said she's not afraid of anything, but then we get here and she's running. Anyway, she runs all the way home. Until she gets home, she locks the door, she sits by the fire, calms down. I sort of play up that whole like, and she sits and rocks for a minute and calms down, and that's fine. And it's good for her to do that. It's always good to get in control of your emotions. Anyway, SEL connection. And then she hears a knock at the door, and it's all the things, and they've come to scare her, and she says, I'm not scared of you. So then they're like, but we came to scare you. If we can't scare you, then like, what's to become of us? Like, what is our purpose, right? And she's like, I have an idea. And then she goes to bed happy. In the morning, she looks out and she hears all the things again, and she sees out in her garden that they've made a scarecrow to scare the crows away, because they can't scare her, right? But they're here to scare the crows. Super cute story. It's great for cumulative form. You can have kids do all the sounds, the clomps, the wiggles, the everything. You could have them do actions for it if you wanted. We read it in this lesson because in the next lesson, we assign a non-pitched percussion instrument to each part. And so reading it here first is great because I only have half-hour lessons. I don't have time to to like read the book, process through it, and then also add non-pitch percussion, there's not enough time. And so I read the book in this lesson. I really process through, talk through the different things, get them to understand the pattern, get them to start thinking about the different sounds that the things make, so that in the next lesson I'm not going through. They already know what's coming, and now they know that like, ooh, I have the hand drum. I'm adding that in for the whatever. And so in that next lesson, we might go through and we might process out and decide like, okay, well, what, for the wiggle wiggle, what would be a good instrument for that? Maybe we'll do that, or maybe I'll have like 2 or 3 options and let them choose, or maybe it depends on, some of the instruments, I only have so many of them, so it might be better for me to, pre-select like, well, I know I'm going to have 5 in this group or whatever. I only have 3 of this kind of instrument. I shouldn't, it's sort of, you got to think logistics on your own, but this is a great book to do that. It's cumulative, it's fun. Again, it's not super scary, and so in fact, I think it's more like she's not scared about it. Like she's not scared about what's coming because she's not afraid. She's going to be in control of her emotions. Anyway, it's a super cute book, super fun to do, and fun to add instruments in the next lesson. Someone on Instagram says, "Do you read to every grade?" Yes. I read all sorts of books all the time. This specific book is just first grade. But yeah, I read all the time, different grades. It depends on the book. It depends on what it is we're doing. But for sure, yeah, I try and incorporate literature at all grade levels. One, just to show that like picture books aren't just little kid books. I think older kids think that, but we can still do super fun things with them at older grades. They can still be appropriate for older grades. But also because I want them to know that like, we're incorporating books and we're incorporating literature and poetry, and that's important. And so, yeah, I do read at every grade level, at least 1 or 2 books a quarter, probably. So super fun to include that book. Okay, this was a lot tonight. Ooh, one more thing I had to show you because I shared about this on Instagram, but I wanted to bring it in. I shared about there was an old lady who swallowed a fly in my first grade lesson a couple weeks ago, and I've been adding some of the variations in. This is the one I found called There Was an Old Dragon Who Swallowed a Knight. It's hilarious. Maybe I did share about it last week. I don't know. And just in case, the dragon swallows the knight, swallows the steed, swallows the squire, swallows the cook. It's just hilarious. It's also funny because it's a little bit... well, he burps them all out at the end, which the kids think is hilarious. It doesn't say throw up, it says burped them out, so fine. But he burps them all out except the knight. He eats the knight, which I think is such a twist, and I'm here for it. Anyway, but like the knight's like content. I don't know. He's like, okay, fine, I'll just stay here anyway. It's a super funny book, and if you read or told There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly, it's a fun one to have on your shelf, or to just put in a subtub, or share with kids in like the few minutes at the end of class. Great book. And this is There Was an Old Dragon Who Swallowed a Knight by Penny Parker Klosterman, illustrated by Ben Mantle. I know I put that on the links page too. Anyway, super fun book. In today's video, I started out by talking about lots of books, like probably 10 books for Indigenous Peoples Day, or to use any time of year, books that feature Indigenous protagonists or Indigenous authors. So super fun list of books. That's all listed on the links page if you're interested, but you can also go back to the beginning of the video and watch that if you want. And then we ran through all my K-5 lessons with a focus on first grade. I'm going to be back next Monday with another Monday video. I hope you'll come back and join me. But if you have questions or anything before then, shoot me a message. Join our Facebook group, Every Moment Matters Music Education Community. Ask questions, make friends. But I hope I'll see you back next week for another Musical Mondays video. All right. Good night, everyone. Have a great night. Bye, Instagram. Have a good night.